Welcome to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. Are you doing the best for your client to help them create their legacy? Are you creating a plan that goes far beyond finances to help people ensure that it becomes the driving force behind all decisions? On this podcast, hosts Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller will help you with growing your practice and your clients' peace of mind. Together, they bring the best and brightest minds to share with you how to help your clients develop their best legacy. And now, here are your hosts, Katie Beth and Stan.
Welcome back to the Legacy Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Beth Hand, and my guest today is a registered representative with Innovation Partners, an investment advisor with IP Financial Advisory Services, a certified long-term care professional, and a legacy expert, Diane Robinson. Diane, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So before we dive in, for our listeners that may not know about you or your services, I would love for you to start us off today by telling us a little bit about your background and what sparked your interest in financial services.
I'll be happy to do that. I actually grew up poor. My parents divorced when I was in the 4th or 5th grade, and my biological father did not financially or otherwise support us, so my mother had to go to work full time. I have 4 younger brothers, but at that time I had 3 younger brothers, and I ended up being the mother of the family and having to raise 3 younger brothers, which wasn't easy because they're brothers, you know?
Right.
So as I said, we were poor, and it's really not a lifestyle that I would recommend for anyone. And so when I got the opportunity, I went to college. I actually majored in computers and minored in finance. So I started out as a computer programmer. And about 2 or 3 years later, someone recruited me for the financial industry. And I ended up really liking what I do. I guess growing up the way I did, I have a need to help others. And so I guess that's how I got into it.
That's a great background story. And it actually leads right into the next question that I have for you. So you've mentioned before, and it talks about on your website, that you believe that financial planning isn't exclusive to the affluent. So tell us why financial planning is important and beneficial for blue-collar families as well.
Actually, that's one thing that irks me about the financial industry. All the training and everything seems to be geared towards the rich, how to save them money and how to make them richer, when actually it's the middle class that really needs and deserves the help. I live in an area that's primarily blue collar, so that means people worked in the steel mills, the mines, they work in teaching, in the medical field, and they work hard. They work very, very hard. And for many of them, that means that they also put their health at risk. You can't work in the steel mills with pretty much not coming out with cancer or emphysema or something like that. So it's very important, I think, that we as an industry start focusing on the middle class. They work all their lives, as I said. So when they're ready to retire, they don't want to keep working. They've done it. They just want to enjoy whatever time they have left. So that's where I come in and other people like me. We help those people with the money that they have so that they can do what it is they want to do. Maybe it's just making sure that they leave their family with no bills or that they have enough money to live off of. So those are very important for everybody, but I think it's especially important for those who don't have a lot of money. They don't have the millions of dollars. Although I do have some clients who are millionaires, and quite frankly, I don't think their family or anybody else knows they're millionaires because they just live like regular people. They're not ostentatious, but everybody deserves to have the retirement that they want and they need.
So tell me a little bit about your ideal client. Who is it you're best suited to serve, or are you suited to serve everybody no matter what their socioeconomic and financial background is?
Not everybody. I like to tell the story. It was a few years ago. A woman coming into my office, she was interested in long-term care. And her story was that her husband had cancer. He had died 2 years earlier, but before that, he'd had a long illness. He'd been in a nursing home under Medicaid. Medicaid took all of his, 401k money and everything else. So she basically was, I think, 72 at that time, forced to work, and not in an easy job either. She was forced to work at a job that someone her age should not have been working at. And so she came into me because she didn't want to leave her kids with nothing, but truthfully, she didn't have anything to leave them anyway. She just didn't want to leave them in debt. So we discussed that, and she had a son and a daughter. The son was lived locally, but he had a special needs child, and the daughter lived out of state. I think it was 2 or 3 states away. So basically, I could not help her. Trust me, that is the worst feeling in the world when someone needs help and you can't help them. But it happens. So I did the next best thing. I referred her to the Pennsylvania Department of Aging to see if they could help her. And I'm also working with some other local nonprofits that could help her. But I don't want to see anyone else come into my office. I don't want to see anyone anywhere else that has that kind of story. So I can help almost anyone. But the people that I usually have, like I said, are business owners. I think business owners are someone that we really need to concentrate on as well, because they are middle class. They're blue collar, most of them. So they use their money and equity in their flesh to get in there and start a business, and they provide jobs for other people. So that type of person is someone that I really like to work with, because they know what it's like to work hard. They know how valuable the jobs that they offer are. And so I like working with them, but I also like working with, like I said, blue collars, people that they work in the steel mills, or they're teachers and even medical professionals. So they don't have the millions of dollars saved up that most people that are rich do. So they have to make sure that the money that they have is used wisely, and that it can be used to get them through retirement, which is usually the reason they come to see me. I haven't met anyone who wants to be poor in retirement or wants to struggle, but I see that all the time, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. So those are the type of people I like to work with, because first of all, they appreciate it more, I think. They appreciate that someone cares enough to help them, even if it's not the answers that they're looking for, because you can't provide those answers because of their situation. But I do the best I can to give them the kind of security that they want in retirement.
That's great. And you touched on this just a little bit, but you're actually a certified long-term care professional.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me and tell me a little bit about what that certification means and what type of ways you can use that expertise to help clients that come to see you.
Like it says, I'm certified in long-term care, so I know the ins and outs, although the ins and outs change all the time. It's like everything else. Being a CLTC, you have to prove every year that you are keeping up with what's going on in the industry. So I think it gives me an extra level of knowledge for the people I work with, because some of them they come to me. Most of my clients are in the 35 to 70, 80 age group. So they either come to me early so that they can get started in the right direction, or they come to me later. And I always have the talk about long-term care, even if they're young, because they could be in a car wreck, they could get hurt at work. There are things that they need to be planning for, so that whatever happens, hopefully we have a plan for it.
Absolutely. A great industry. And I love that you have that certification as well. So you can prove that you're truly up to date. Laws and rules are changing all the time. That's true. That's true in the estate planning world as well. So talk to me a little bit about, you've been in this business for a while now. What is the biggest mistake that you see people make?
The biggest mistake is they don't ask for help, or they ask for help too late. And that's something that can be fixed easily. Just get in there, get the information. Even if you don't like the information, you at least need to know it.
Yeah. What would you say the recommended age you would like for someone to come and see you? What would your recommendation be? Either age or phase of life. When does someone need to come and talk to a financial planner?
As early as possible, but I would say at least by age 30, because by that time you're probably married, you have college bills, you have a family that you need to protect. You have plenty of time, hopefully, to save and plan for retirement. A lot of them that come in at age 30, 35, they want to retire early. They don't want to wait like we did and retire later at Social Security age. They want to retire. They want to make sure that their family's taken care of. They want to make sure that they have the money that they can retire. Maybe they just want to make sure that their children don't have to pay for their education, which, as everybody knows, is very, very, very expensive.
Right. And getting more expensive by the day. And I say that sweating a bit, as I have one headed to college here in 2 years. So I know the numbers all too well. One thing that we hear a lot in the estate planning world is people even in their early to mid 30s will say, well, I don't know that I even need an estate plan because I really don't have anything. I don't have a lot. We still rent, or all I have is a car, or we just have a small starter home. I don't know that I even need an estate plan yet. Is that something that you hear? Do you find that most people are willing to come in earlier, or is it the type of thing where you tend to get older people coming in that wish they had come in sooner?
Well, whether they like it or not, they have an estate plan. It just may not be the one they want, but they do have an estate plan. So if you die without a will, things have to go through the court.
Right.
Things happen. Maybe if you have children, if you haven't appointed someone to raise your children, if something happens to you, the court makes that decision. I always tell people, you already have an estate plan. Is it really the one you want?
Right. It's the government's estate plan. That's what I tell people. You can decide where everything goes, or the government can decide where everything goes. So how much do you trust the government? And then that can determine whether or not you want to come in and get an estate plan made. That's the conversation I have had with many, many newly married and young couples.
Right. And when you mention government, it's like, oh. And then now a lot of people, the younger people, think there will not be any Social Security left when they get ready to retire.
Right.
So I have to answer those questions, which, there's no definite and definitive answer to that. You just have to tell them where things stand. And if they ask my opinion, I give it to them, but I make sure they understand it's my opinion and I could be right and I could be wrong.
Right. Right. We're all just guessing as far as that far out. So talk to us about your process. So as a client, will you just walk us through the step-by-step of someone decides to come and see you? What does that process look like?
Actually, I'm unique. I actually go to their office or to their home because they feel more comfortable there. That's where their documents are. And sometimes they come into the office, but for the most part, especially the elderly, I usually go to visit them so that they don't have to make the trip in. So what we do is we start out, first of all, my first question is, of course, I already know the answer, is why did you want to meet with me? What do you want to achieve? What's worrying you? Just give me some background on why you're here to talk to me. And so then we go from there, because a lot of times they don't really know why they want to talk to me. They just know that they're getting ready to retire, or their children are getting ready to go to college, and they know that they need to do something. They're just not sure what they need to do. So my first thing is to gather information. So that's not just data, but also how they feel about things. The worst thing for me to do is to give them a financial plan that they hate.
Right.
And I would never do that. So along the way, they pretty much help me do the financial planning for them, or whatever they're asking me to do, because they have to tell me what they want. I spend a good bit of time just talking to them to see what type of person they are, because maybe they're like me. They grew up poor, and so I know what that's like. So I can guide them. I can ask the right questions to get them to tell me what I need to know, and also what they need to know.
Yeah. One thing that I love about, and you mentioned this on your website, and I love that you've mentioned it a couple times in this interview as well. I think for those of us who did not grow up in really affluent families, having a financial planner and seeking out financial advice feels a little bit overwhelming and maybe out of our comfort zone, because our parents may not have had that person. And so we feel like maybe this is not for us, or we get that sense, and we see this in the estate planning world too. Maybe I don't really belong here. I don't have enough to bring this to you and waste your time, is the feeling that we get from some of our clients sometimes. And so so one thing that I love about that you always mention is the fact that you're very upfront and open about, hey, I grew up poor, and I recognize that that is my background. And you just really do such a good job of making it seem not intimidating to come and talk to you, even if someone's not necessarily a millionaire or a business owner. Financial planning is truly for everyone. And something that everybody needs to look into. And like you said, the sooner the better. So I love on your website that you mentioned that and that background. And I feel like it really opens the door maybe to some of those clients who might be hesitant otherwise to go and speak with a financial advisor. That wasn't a question. That was just an observation anyway that I made.
They feel more comfortable when they're in their home or in their office talking to you.
Yeah.
So that's the other reasons, because I understand people don't want to talk about their finances because,
Right.
hey, you never did that before. You weren't allowed to talk about it. If you were rich,
Right.
you weren't supposed to let on that you were rich. If you're poor, that's pretty hard to hide. So they feel more comfortable. So you start out with some questions that, about their family. Everybody likes to talk about their family,
Right.
or the dog.
Yeah. Yeah. So true.
Dog. I've had lots of conversations about dogs and pets and other animals. But yeah, so it's my responsibility to put them at ease. And I don't get upset about any question you ask. No question is dumb. I'm pretty good at what I do, and I'm proud of that. But I'm fairly smart, just like everybody else is. But if you ask me a question about engineering, probably cannot answer that question. It doesn't make me dumb. It just means it's not an area that I'm familiar with. And so I pretty much tell them that there are no dumb questions. If you have a question and I don't know the answer, I'll find the answer for you if I can. For most people, they pretty much already made the decision that they're probably going to do something, or they wouldn't have called me first. And a lot of mine are recommendations. So they already know a little bit about me before I meet with them, which helps a lot.
Right.
They know what to expect. And usually their children or other relatives, and I already know all about them because they're
Right.
my clients already talk about them. So I know a lot about them before.
For the good or for the bad, you've already heard about them one way or the other. So before we run out of time, one other thing I wanted to touch on is you have lots of different certifications and a very impressive list of groups that you're a member of. And amongst those, you are a member of the Legacy Leaders Network. So talk to us a little bit about why you think legacy planning is important to the work that you do.
Well, if I die tomorrow, I take all my secrets with me. I take all my memories with me. And I don't want to do that. Even though I grew up poor, there are a lot of nice things I want to remember and I want my family to remember. And there are things that I know that they don't know and they should know it about this person or that person. It also helps the person who's doing the legacy planning to focus on what's important. There's some memory may come up about a late uncle or story about a late uncle or aunt or something, and they want to make sure that their family knows about this person. So it's like you get to reminisce and also plan for the future so that people, your family, the ones that you love or the friends or whomever, you leave a little something behind is how you should put it. And it's hopefully something that is going to be appreciated by the ones that you leave behind you. And I think at some point, if you really do it and do it right, they're going to remember you for years and years and years. And not being a celebrity, that's a pretty good feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And remember you fondly when you have done kind of this legacy work. So I'm about to ask you probably the most difficult question of this whole interview. And I'll give you a second to think about it. Through the work that you do with financial advising and long-term care planning and all of these, the impact you have on all of these different families, what is it you hope your legacy will be?
I think I'm living my legacy right now. It's that I get phone calls from people that don't know me, but someone said, hey, call Diane. She can probably help you. Or call Diane. She may know that, how to direct you to someplace. So I think my legacy is going to be that I was a caring person. I was there for my family when they needed me. Not always nice. Didn't want to be there for all the things they've done, but I was there and I supported them. And I think my clients feel that way about me too. I don't think there's a better legacy to leave.
I have to agree with you.
I don't have billions of dollars to leave them, so they're just going to have to accept what I have.
I love that. That is a great answer. That is a great answer. I love the idea of living your legacy now and making that positive impact on not just your own family, but your community as well. Is there anything else that you would like our listeners to know about that we didn't talk about?
No, I don't think so. I think we've talked pretty much about a lot of things in the short time that we have. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, no, I think you answered everything. So for everyone listening today, thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Katie Beth Hand, and you have been listening to the Legacy Leaders podcast. My guest today was financial expert Diane Robinson, and for more information on Diane and all of the work that she does, you can find her at jdianerobinson.com, and we will also link that for you in the show notes. Diane, it's always such a pleasure to talk to you, so thank you again so much for joining me today.
And again, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Legacy Leaders Podcast with Katie Beth Hand and Stan Miller. For more information on them and the show, please visit pinnaclelegacylaw.com. If you like what you've learned today, do share the program with your friends and subscribe wherever podcasts are found.